In post-World War II America, fear was everywhere. Fear of communism, fear of nuclear war, fear of the enemy within. And no one exploited that fear more ruthlessly than Joseph McCarthy, a junior senator from Wisconsin who would, for a time, hold the entire nation in his grip. Born in 1908 to a farming family in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, McCarthy worked his way up from humble beginnings. He became a lawyer, served as a Marine officer in World War II, and was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1946. But once in office, he was just another face in the crowd, until he found the weapon that would launch him to national fame: fear of communism.
On February 9, 1950, McCarthy gave a speech in Wheeling, West Virginia, waving a piece of paper and claiming he had a list of communists working in the U.S. State Department. His accusations were vague, unproven, and often changed in number, but the damage was done. In the early years of the Cold War, with the Soviet Union expanding and memories of World War II still raw, Americans were hungry for someone to blame for the fears gnawing at them. McCarthy gave them a target. He accused government officials, diplomats, and even army officers of disloyalty and treason, often without any concrete evidence. His hearings were brutal, his questions loaded, his tactics ruthless. Careers were destroyed, reputations ruined, and lives shattered, all on the basis of rumor and suspicion. And the nation, gripped by the Red Scare, watched in fascination and terror.
The term McCarthyism entered the American lexicon, symbolizing accusation without proof, guilt by association, and the erosion of civil liberties. Under McCarthy's influence, fear became policy. Blacklists spread across Hollywood, with actors, writers, and directors losing their jobs if suspected of leftist sympathies. Government workers were investigated, interrogated, and dismissed based on flimsy or non-existent evidence. Teachers, union leaders, and ordinary citizens found their lives turned upside down by suspicion. McCarthy operated like a bully in a courtroom, using intimidation, half-truths, and theatrical performances to stay in the spotlight. His power grew not because of the strength of his evidence, but because of the fear he instilled. To oppose him was to risk being labeled a communist sympathizer, a dangerous accusation in 1950s America.
But McCarthy's rise could not last forever. His tactics became increasingly reckless. In 1954, he made his most critical mistake. He accused the U.S. Army of harboring communists. The resulting Army McCarthy hearings were nationally televised, and for the first time, the American people saw McCarthy's bullying tactics, evasions, and distortions firsthand. One moment would come to define his downfall. During a brutal interrogation, Joseph Welch, the Army's chief counsel, confronted McCarthy with the now famous words,
"Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?"
The spell was broken. The public turned against McCarthy. The Senate voted to censure him in December 1954, a rare and humiliating punishment. McCarthy's influence evaporated almost overnight. Once feared, he became a political pariah.
Shunned by his colleagues, scorned by the press, McCarthy spent his final years isolated and embittered. His health deteriorated, worsened by alcohol abuse. On May 2, 1957, at the age of 48, Joseph McCarthy died of hepatitis A. broken man who had once wielded the fear of a nation like a sword. His funeral was sparsely attended by government officials. No grand honors awaited him. His legacy was already being rewritten as a cautionary tale of fear, paranoia, and the dangers of unchecked power.
Joseph McCarthy's name became synonymous with political witch hunts, the violation of civil rights, and the devastating impact of reckless accusations. Though communism was indeed a real threat during the Cold War, McCarthy's methods betrayed American values, justice, fairness, and the presumption of innocence. The damage he caused to careers, to lives, to trust in government, left lasting scars. In the decades that followed, historians, lawmakers, and citizens alike would look back on McCarthyism as a dark period of American history. Yet the lesson endures. Democracy is vulnerable when fear is allowed to overpower truth.
Joseph McCarthy rose to power by turning fear into a weapon. He thrived on division, suspicion, and intimidation, and for a time he shaped the destiny of an entire nation. But in the end, the same fear he stoked consumed his career, his reputation, and his life. And history remembers him not as a hero, but as a warning of what happens when power is unchecked, fear is exploited, and truth becomes a casualty.